All right, guys, here we are. So today we are here all about an online home buying experience. And I know you guys have seen a lot of our new messaging, and it has all been about building a legacy through real estate because that's really what this is about, right? It's about buying a home to live in, but also buying assets and keeping assets that you can pass on to your children, to your children's children, to their children. Stefan, if you see him in the audience, he is an estate attorney, and he is going to drop some nuggets on at another time about how to keep those assets, right? So it's like, we're a full service family here, right? Introduction. So my name is Michelle Morton. Most of you guys know me. I'm a licensed realtor, DC, Maryland, and Virginia. Oh, I think that's me. Yeah, there we go. I'm a licensed realtor, DC, Maryland, and Virginia. You guys know, again, this is more than just a transaction. My goal is to be your realtor forever, right? And so you need to know a little bit about me. The same way when we chat on the phone, you're telling me about, like today, we just talked about children, we talk about parents, we talk about, and after the transaction, I'm still going to be harassing you. Yes, I am the person who's going to call you and knock on the door, show up at the cookout without the invite, right? So here's a little bit about me. So I'm a wife. My husband is here. We're in business together. His name's Dwight Morton. So as we go through this process, you will get to know, like, and love him the same way you will me. And those are my three girls, Trinity, Eden, and Grace. They're part of, you will see them as we're touring homes. And when you close, they will gift you some really cool things too. Again, our goal here is to help you buy, sell, and invest in real estate. That's my details, and that's my brokerage. And the image is here. Again, we're about a legacy, right? And I believe a legacy, sometimes it starts with us financially, but it doesn't necessarily start with, our story doesn't start with us. So this is my grandfather, who is a retired Marine, and he instilled almost all the values I have in me, which came from his mother, which came from her mother, right? I've never met them, but I do know that somehow they are a part of me. And through this transaction, through this purchase, through our relationship, we're going to hope to help you build a legacy that you can pass on as well. Cool. Again, guys, if you have any questions, please just drop them below or raise your hand and we will get to them. Awesome. So now the squad. So Stefan, I'm sorry I had you on here, but he is going to join us next time. Marcus Fields. Marcus, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm just gonna keep talking, and the more I talk, you'll hear that country thing coming out of my voice because I am a country boy from Fauquier County, Virginia. And if anybody, I might do a giveaway at the end of this because if anybody can tell me one city in Fauquier County that's not Warrenton, then I might give you all a little something special. But I'm way out here. I'm about an hour away from DC. But I'm always in the Northern Virginia area, and I've been in the business for 18 years. I've worked for Navy Federal Credit Union, SunTrust, BB&T, but most of my career has been spent working with large independent mortgage companies. When we talk about legacy, you're about to see one of the reasons why I do, come here, Taya, one of the reasons why I do what I do. She showed her girls, and I'm going to show my girl. Say hi, Taya.
Hi. Hi, Taya.
That's Miss Michelle.
Hi.
If anybody knows what a 4-year-old does, they run the household. My desire in mortgage lending is to really lead you to victory. So I'm a huge competitor. I am very much into sports, basketball being my favorite sport. Jordan is the GOAT, LeBron's number 2, but we won't have that conversation here tonight. But when I talk about leading you to victory, so I always want to set people up for the win. So if it's a matter of making sure that all of your credit is in the right position, or I'm putting you in the right mortgage loan so that you can have an affordable payment and start investing in your own, in yourself and into your own family, then I'm going to do that. Like I said, I've worked for large companies, and those companies really care more about themselves and their bottom line. I don't. I work for you, and I care more about your bottom line, your heart, your dreams, your goals, your desires. But at the end of the day, you want it to be a dream come true. You want to feel like you won. You want to feel good about it, and you want to be able to pass that good information and experience on to others. So that's me in a nutshell. Mortgage Coach Marcus, leading you to victory on a regular basis.
Stefan, you have 2 seconds. You want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. And I want to just thank you for the opportunity to be on the stage. And well, I'm not on the stage now, but to be able to introduce myself. Hello, everyone. My name is Stefan Javier Bush. I am a DC licensed attorney. I also have connections and a practice in Maryland. And I specialize in helping entrepreneurs achieve generational wealth and their families as well. And you don't have to be an entrepreneur to benefit from the estate planning practices that I provide. So the way that I set up my practice, I like to help folks understand how a will, a trust, and different business formations such as an LLC can help you advance your goals and pass on whatever you have to the next generation. A lot of folks think that being generationally wealthy and things of that nature is about how much money you have. It's not. It's about how much money you keep and how you go about keeping it. And so I think that, this is a great discussion to have in terms of making sure that when you get your household, that your household is secure in all respects. And so that's what I do. And I thank you for the opportunity to say that.
Thank you so much, Stefan. And we will have him back. And I appreciate him for hopping in to hang out with us for a little bit. Thank you. Sure. Awesome. All right, guys. Yeah.
All right, guys. I'll catch you.
Bye. Right. All right, guys. And the reason that's important too, because, I've had individual conversations with most of you here, and I hear it over and over again that I want something for my kids, right? I want something for my grandkids. It's time, I've been a renter, or I have owned a home before and I no longer have it, but I need something to pass on. So I think that we really want to incorporate that into our process. So now when you guys talk to me, that's one of the things that we'll talk about, and we'll continue to have people like Stefan come and grace our presence. So again, this is our promise, this is our mission, this is our ministry, and it is to help you build generational wealth through real estate. Mm-hmm. Cool?
For sure.
Awesome. So our discussion today, the program, estate planning, we talked about that a little bit. The money, the financing. So Marcus is the money man today. He's going to talk about, all of the things that it's going to take for us to get to that pre-approval phase, and some different programs that are out there as well. And then the home buying process. And I know when I talk to you guys, we go over this home buying process really fast, and it's like a whole lot of information. So, and when I did that, I promised you that as we go through it, I will break it down into bite-sized pieces, and we'll keep going over it, right? So we'll keep going. Every time we have these, I want you guys to hop in, because every time we'll have different nuggets to drop for you guys. Cool?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So Mr. Marcus is going to start talking about the money.
Thank you. You came out swinging with this one, because just so that everybody knows, when I do my home buying seminars, this is one of the slides that I show in the middle of the seminar, and it talks about the process. So you go from the credit process. It really is a conversation. I like to have it first, because I want to know what your goals are. We don't really get too much into the personal thing, but as we spend time together, and I get to know. Of course, I know what your name, your address, your date of birth, your social. I know where you work, how long you've worked there, what type of money you make. I see your bank statements. I know how much you save and how much you don't save. But when we come down to it, I know everything. So it does get personal. And this is my mission field. This is my ministry. And I know that I have to be a man of high integrity in this. And I love this. I love what I do, and I'm super passionate about it. Like I said, I'm a competitor. One of the things that I speak about is about firing your landlord, because sometimes there's an advantage to renting for sure. Because one of the things is that your rent can stay pretty consistent. The maintenance fees and responsibilities, that's not your responsibility, because you don't have, ownership of the property. But there's if you look at this chart, you see, you can kind of get a picture of what your average rent would be. So if you just kind of hit it in the middle and we say that the rent is someone's paying $1,600 a month in rent, well, the average renter is renting for about a 10-year cycle. And that would be $192,000 that you've spent over 10 years. So $1,600 times 12 months times those 10 years, you get to $192,000. And that's $192,000 that you've put into someone else's pocket. You've invested that into someone else's dream and you furthered their legacy. But when we're talking about generational, wealth versus generational poverty, we'll say. There's a number of people that I have come across in my career that have always referred to, and I as well have referred to grandma's house, or we're going to grandma and granddaddy's house, or we're going to my grandmother's, Grandma Pauline. So we're going to Grandma Pauline's house. And a lot of people always the family place, but they never know whether or not they own, grandma and granddaddy own that place or not. There's a ton of people that they refer to as grandma and granddaddy's house, but that's not their house. So if you go back 30 years, everybody's ever, gone there in that same scenario of $1,600 a month. Look at what people have spent over 30 years. It's $500,000 that you've given to another person. So there's real value, that $576,000, which is $1,600 a month over 30 years. And we all know rent increases. So that's over $500,000. There's probably, depending on the area that you're purchasing in, especially down south, I mean, that 576 can buy you what, 2 or 3 homes. Mm-hmm. So, and even in Southern Virginia, you can buy a home, a couple of houses for that amount of money, or in the Baltimore area, maybe you can buy, 2 or 3, homes. People are spending money, and the same money that you're spending and you're working hard for, it needs to be invested in a good spot. So my job is to turn on the light for people, to be able to show you how to invest in yourself, because you are going to work on a regular basis and you are paying somebody. You may as well pay yourself. And from that same standpoint, you also create something for your children. And I'm a product of that, because I never moved around on an annual basis, because my parents always had a home and they sold the home when we outgrew it. I'm the oldest of 4. And then we landed in Fauquier County in about 1988. And that's where my parents are right now. So, but when I got on my own, the very first thing that I did, yes, I looked around at an apartment with my friends, a couple of knuckleheads that I grew up with and sang with or whatever. But, and just kind of a quick story about that. One of the guys, it was 23, and he had just had a baby. So, now having a baby, I know he was going to be broke. And then my best friend, yeah. And then my best friend, we were making about $15,000 a year at that time working at the credit union. And every 2 weeks, the paycheck was about $525 or so. And this dude had a $400 insurance payment on his vehicle, and he had a $400 car note. And we were all still talking about going in and getting an apartment together. Well, after my dad talked some sense into me, and he said, "You're not going to be able to do that. You'll be back home in 6 months, and you'll ruin your friendships." I started looking at a condo, and I bought a condo in 1999, and I haven't looked back since. And then I went from there to a townhome. And then when I got married, my wife and I bought a single family. So that taught me, my parents doing what they did and always having a place for me to call home. And it still is a place to call home. It taught me to establish that early in my own life. In the same way, now I'll take it on the other side of things. What my parents didn't teach me was about credit. And most of us don't have that type of educational opportunity to learn about credit. So we kind of just fumble around, we mess up our credit before it's actually good. So my job also is to teach people how to have good credit, reestablish good credit, maintain good credit, and how to further your legacy there, and also to help your children and others, nephews and nieces that may be in position, to help them get a better start than what you may have. Because that's my desire. That little girl that came in here, my desire is to make sure that she hits the ground running. I didn't finish college. I flunked out, as a matter of fact. And if she chooses to go to college, fine. But if she doesn't, she'll hit the ground running with an understanding of how to operate in this world as a responsible adult, managing credit, understanding what it is to be a contributor to society in a positive way, but also to establish some wealth early on so that she will have some choices. She can make some choices. And the reality is, you want to always be able to dictate to the banks or the lenders more so what you will and what you won't do. Not having assets, not having the right credit, you're subject to whatever they want to give you. But if you have the right assets, you have the right credit, you have the right heart attitude, and you have the right mindset, you have options. And we all want to be able to have options, I believe. So that's what I'm here to do. So if you never had the opportunity before, today's day one and we start that. So years ago, and I talk about my family, we're talking about legacy. We're talking, and for me, legacy is not so much what you do now, it's what you've done now to help the next and that lives beyond you. What you do should live beyond your years on this earth. And I talk about my family a lot. I treat everybody like family. And my grandfather was born in 1927, 1923, something like that. Only has a third grade education. Only had a third grade education. But when he started working early. But then he established a trucking business, and he hauled asphalt for 50 years and ran that business by himself for 50 years. My dad graduated from high school. My dad went into the police force in DC, but then he got into business for himself, selling life insurance. So he was an entrepreneur as well. And then after about 10 years of doing that, he and my grandfather went into business together. They expanded the trucking business. They ran it basically up until the point of where my grandfather passed away. And I didn't know that while I was helping my dad work on the brakes or helping him change oil or helping him do whatever in that business, that I was continuing a 3-generation legacy. And now I'm here as an entrepreneur myself. I had no idea I'd be in mortgage financing and having an entrepreneurial mindset or, a career, but it's that way. So now I'm sitting here saying, well, who else can I help, ignite and further the legacy that's set before them? Because some people don't know how to juggle what someone hands off to them. I'm here to help do that as well. So I'll circle back around to the front door. If you can buy, it's a good idea to buy. The market is prime and ready for you to buy. And if you don't know, then that's why I'm here to help you establish whether it's good or not. Cash, you want to jump in, Michelle?
Yeah, no, I was just going to ask you a couple questions, right? So I think that it's super awesome. One, thank you for sharing your story about grandfather and him passing you the business. And I think that it's important. Like, one of the things that I took away from that was that your legacy has, and I think Stefan said it, right? It's not just about money, right? It's about opportunity. It's about the food you cook. It's about the love that you pass along. And now we're just trying to put some assets behind it.
Yeah, for sure,
right?
for sure. For sure.
Awesome. And then we do have a few like homeowners too, Marcus. So what would because you do a lot of refinances and then helping people buy their second homes. What are some things to look out for when it's going time to buy your second home?
Trying to buy a second home, sometimes it depends on where it's going to be. And I think the value in it and whether it's something that you're using as a primary residence, an investment property, or legitimately is that second home in Florida, because there can be certain tax implications on what you can and can't write off. And I don't speak much to taxes because I'm not a licensed tax professional. But there can be those things to look out, for. And if you're going to be legitimately a landlord, you also have to be sure that what you're spending in a mortgage payment versus what you can collect in rent, that it really makes sense. That, because smart investments are set up so that you can make money, not even to break even, right? I mean, unless it's a real long play, you'll break even for a little bit, but you're not also trying to make quick money. But it's got to be a good window. At what point do I break even versus start making the money, right? I don't know anybody that gets on Robinhood or E-Trade or play the stock market just to get back what they invested. They want more than what they put in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's good to, and you can take the equity out of your home if you're doing a refinance. You can take the equity out of the home and invest that into another property. One of the tricks that I understand is that instead of trying to take the cash out immediately to purchase another property, you get an equity line on your property, which basically means you keep your first mortgage, and then you go to your bank or your credit union, you get a small second line. Both are attached to the house. This payment stays the same, but this small equity line, the payment's based upon how much you use, and then you pay it down. You use it again, and you pay it down. So when you see the right opportunity, you have to investigate and then be able to execute. That property that's there right now might not be the right property. It looks good, but you haven't done the necessary research. And if it is the right one, you can pull the trigger because you have the equity line available. But if not, then you just wait for the next one and call Michelle, and she'll find you the right one.
Awesome. Exactly. And to Marcus's point, what he's saying is that we're going to help you get into your first home. If it's time to buy that second home, we're going to help you get into that. But ultimately, we want to also talk about investing, right? What do we do? Buy, sell, and invest.
Yeah.
So let's go get into some of these programs, Marcus.
Yep. So FHA is great for first-time buyers. FHA always requires a 3.5% down payment. And Michelle, you did great on these slides. So thank you so much. Full disclosure, because mine didn't look like that. She spruced it up. But yeah, so you don't have to have the best of credit. You don't have to have a lot of assets. This is great for first time buyers, maybe fresh out of college, or this is also a program that's the most lenient and forgiving if you've had some sort of credit event. And what I mean by credit event is that if you owned a home before and it went into foreclosure, you did a short sale, or you had a bankruptcy, these are the things that this loan program is more forgiving to those prior credit events. So this is one that I love. I do a ton of these for first-time buyers and repeat buyers. It's not just for first time. And this is also that loan that works in accordance with the renovation product. So you hear that term 203K all the time. That just means that you can actually buy a home, need some money to renovate it. You can get the money through this program, and then you can live in it or flip it or whatever you want to do. So I love FHA loans. No matter what anybody tells you, FHA loan is not a bad loan. Okay. I hear it, and it's not the case. And I just want to say this before we go any further. Anytime you don't make a 20% down payment on a mortgage loan, you're always going to have what we call mortgage insurance, or PMI. And for FHA, it's a fixed amount, based upon the loan amount, but you keep it for the entire loan term. Let's go to the next one.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to point out, add a couple of things from like the realtor perspective, right? So 3.5% minimum down payment. Why is that awesome? Because usually what's the normal down payments, Marcus, for like conventional and up?
Conventional is 3%. VA loans for veterans is 0%, and rural properties is 0%.
Perfect. But you're not going to get any of those 0% with like a 620 credit score?
If you're a veteran, you can get a VA loan with a 580 credit score. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Other thing, highest DTI threshold. You want to explain a little bit about what that means?
So your DTI is debt to income. So we take a look at what you are already paying each month, credit card payments, student loans, car payments. And then we add to that what your estimated mortgage payment will be. Typically, you want to keep it around 40 to 45%. You don't want your expenses to go any higher than 45% of what you are making before taxes are taken out of your paycheck. So your gross income. Debt to income ratio is based upon your gross before anything's moved out of your paycheck. So FHA will say, we'll go above the 50% threshold. We'll usually get about 55%, 56%. It's up there. Conventional loans, they cap you at 50%, nothing over 50%. VA loans is more forgiving like FHA, but this is the one that if you've got a little bit of a high debt already and you want to buy and you're going to go over 50% of your income, this is the one. It's a good one.
Awesome. And guys, and that's what we talk about. Student loans, car notes, credit cards, right? So credit cards, ideally, Marcus, we want to keep those down as low as possible, right? Like 10%, 30%.
Yeah. Always keep your balance under 30% and keep $1 on the account. Even if you're going to threaten, you were like, I'm going to pay it off to zero, keep $1. Because that allows the credit companies to report something to the credit bureaus. And then what they're reporting is such a small amount that now the credit bureaus say, oh, they manage this debt well. And then they give you the maximum points available for that account.
Awesome. Car notes, tips on car notes.
Pay it on time.
Don't get one, right? Don't get one.
Yeah, pay it on time. Those are just, you don't necessarily have to pay them in advance, but pay them on time.
Perfect.
Paying your debt on time, that makes up the biggest reason why your credit scores will go up or down. If it's due on the first, pay it on the first. Because there's also a thing called slow pay. Well, you pay late in the grace period, or I'll pay after the grace period and pay and just pay the late fee. You're not going to get the maximum points per month for that because you are categorized as a slow payer.
I didn't know that. That's good to know. Awesome. And then I would also say try to keep the payment low, right? Like don't have a $500-$600 car payment.
Absolutely. Keep that thing as low as possible. I mean, not everybody, a $500, $600 car payment, depending on what it is, you might be spending $30,000 on a vehicle. If that's what you need, that's what you need. But also have the necessary credit to be able to have an interest rate that's competitive, single digits, below 5%, because you can't have a $30,000 vehicle with a 22% interest rate. And, that payment is actually a rent or mortgage payment. It's not good.
And overall, like what that does is reduces how much house we can buy.
Correct.
Right? The lower amount our debt is on a monthly basis, the better our income is, that's how much house we can buy. And we know we live in an expensive area, y'all.
We do.
So we want to try to put ourselves in a position to buy as much house that we can afford as possible.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
For sure.
All right. You ready to rock and roll?
Let's roll. Let's
go.
So this is my favorite loan. I don't know if you're supposed to play favorites, but this is my favorite one. So the VA loan for Michelle's grandfather, if he used his VA benefit, he was able to buy a home and did not need to make a down payment at all. So like I said, I worked at Navy Federal for 10 years and I did so many of those. I just can't count, but it's eligible to all veterans, active. Reserves has a little bit of a nuance to it. And I won't go into in depth in that. Same thing with National Guard, but this is the loan you do not have to have the best of credit on, and you still don't have to make a down payment at all. It doesn't require a high credit score. You see 580 there. You can actually get it down. You can do a 530, but you got to make a down payment. Now, here's the thing about the VA loans is that there's always going to be some sort of additional fee that if you do a government loan, which a government loan is a FHA or VA, or in a rural area, it's USDA. With government loans, there's always an additional fee per month. Well, you can pay it per month or they can add it into the actual loan amount. And sometimes it's both. FHA, it's both. VA, it's upfront. If you are a first-time user of the VA loan, then that funding fee, and I actually should have sent you an edit, but it actually is 2.3%. My bad, Michelle.
It's okay.
If you are using it again, and you can use your VA over and over and over, it's actually 3.6%. So they bumped it a little bit. Now, if you have some sort of service-related disability and VA says that this service member does not have to pay the VA funding fee due to that disability, then whatever that funding fee is, it goes away. You never have to pay it. How do we know? You get a document called the Certificate of Eligibility. You find that on VA's website, and it's very easy to find. If the veteran or service member can't get it, then we have some documents and some tricks to get it and help with that. But this is such it's probably it is my favorite loan, and it's got such the best rates in the United States right now. If your interest rate, you can get like 2.2 or 2.3 on a 30-year fix without any additional fees if you have a 680 credit score. And 680 is not hard to get. So, like I said, it's a wonderful loan. I love it.
Awesome. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, one of the tricks to this is like sometimes you have service members coming from South Korea or Okinawa or France or whatever and moving into the state or moving from state to state. So they're used to juggling things, and they juggle it very well. So you got to be on point for this loan because things operate off of a VA schedule, and it's got to be exact. So dealing with those service members, the type A personalities, you got to explain to them, but whatever it's going to be, it's got to be. You can't have too many changes, So it adds an element of fun for me because it makes me really work that much harder. I'm not sloppy, but I just got to be really, really on. It's like I'm in the NBA Finals working with these folks.
Quick question for you, right? So a lot of us bank with Navy Federal, right? And you said you were with them for years, and I love Navy Federal as a bank. Right. But I honestly, as a realtor, I don't like working with them for a reason. So what would you say is the competitive, or what would you say is the advantage of working with an individual like you versus one of the big banks?
Because at 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, I'm working. The big banks are not. They work at representing their logo. They look at their bottom line. They work within a box, and working with me and companies like mine, we don't work in the box. Yeah, we have guidelines, but we don't work within the box. And it's not about our logo. Excuse me. It's about you and your dream and how we can make this loan work and fit best. And there's also this thing called overlays. Lenders like myself, we don't have a ton of overlays, if at all. We only have guidelines that are in accordance to VA. Okay, in accordance to VA and the FHA and conventional guidelines. That's what we operate off of.
Perfect. And guys, so really quickly, so an overlay, what that means is, so like when COVID hit, right? So a lot of people could get a mortgage for, I'm just going to give some numbers, right? So let's say a 580, right? A 580, you can get FHA. Well, when COVID hit, some of the banks, in order to protect themselves, put on an overlay, meaning they increased their scores to 620, 640. I think Chase went to a 680. And that wasn't FHA. That wasn't a federal government requirement. It was the individual bank's requirement. Did I explain that pretty well?
You did explain that very well.
Yay!
I'll make it very simple. All it is whatever the guidelines are, they are. And a bank or credit union has chosen to add something on top of the guidelines just because they feel like it or they can. We don't do that.
Awesome. And another thing to you guys, whenever you come to me and we talk about getting pre-approved, right? 9 times out of 10, even though again, I love Navy Federal, I love USAA, but a lot of the times Navy Federal will take 60 days to close a loan, right? Anytime we make an offer, especially in a competitive environment like we're in right now, 60 days will not cut it. If a seller has to choose between someone who will close in 60 days or someone who will close in 30 days, who are they going to go with?
The 30
right, Ms. Tamika, 30 days because they want their shmoney, right? So we want to go with my preferred lender. They work, right? So we need pricing on a Saturday. Sorry, Marcus, not on a Sunday, but we need pricing in the evening or on a Saturday. He's going to be available. He's going to talk. He has a podcast called, what is it? The Mortgage Coach. Because
you better say it right.
I'm just, okay.
No. It's called Coach's Corner.
Coach's Corner, right? And he's a mortgage coach. So what that means is that it is a part of his ministry and a part of his mission to help us get into homes. It's not just a job for him.
Yeah.
Cool?
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And this one right here is for people that are country bumpkins like me, want to be out here in Warrenton. So
Where?
Warrenton.
I'm just joking.
Don't do me like that. So USDA, this USDA is, yes, the same exact USDA you see on a package of steak when you go to the grocery store. It's the same one. You don't have to make a down payment. It is a government loan. You can get scores as low as 620. There are income limits to this one. So however many people that are in the home and the area that you're going to be in, you can only make a certain amount of money to be able to get this loan. Now, and they do have they have an upfront fee of 1%, and then they have the guarantee fee that you pay monthly. Now, here's the trick to this loan. It's property specific, so it's not area specific. Yes, a general area, you can assume that a lot of the homes will be USDA eligible, but there's a website, you put the address to the property into the website, and then that will tell you if that house is actually eligible for USDA. Now, the trick is the house that I'm sitting in right now could be USDA eligible. The one across the street might not be. It's just how USDA has decided they have their lines and they have their areas. But it is a wonderful loan. Depending on the area that you live in, you'll see a ton of them or you won't, but I would say when you get, actually, you're probably about my area is when you start seeing a lot of them be available. Or if you go to 95, you hit Stafford, you start to see them be more, available because you have more space. But Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, Maryland, areas of Maryland, it's not happening. But I think out in Charles County or was it Waldorf?
Charles County, yeah. Some Anne Arundel. There are some in PG County, but usually like Upper Marlboro or Brandywine, you'll still see some of those houses. But one of the cool things is that so this is 100% financing. We have to find a very specific house, right? We don't always need 100% financing, right? Because there's some cool grant programs out there, right? What are some of the grant programs that you work with, Marcus?
So in Maryland, there's a program called the Maryland Mortgage Program. I used to be signed up for that one. We're getting ready to be signed up again for it. There's also the PG PAP program, which gives you some money, in Prince George's County. If you go on the other side of the bridge and you go up to Frederick County, Maryland, they have a program called just their home buying grants. So they give you anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 towards your down payment and closing costs. You come into Virginia. Virginia has the one that I think. Now I'm a Virginia boy, so I'm always going to represent. But yeah, there you go. There you go. The best one of them all, VHDA. So this will allow you to finance your entire down payment. Sometimes, and that's that second mortgage. So you pay them both at the same time. Interest rate on those is like 3%. Sometimes, depending on how much money you make and how many people are in the household, if your down payment, let's say it's 3%, the grant will cover 2% of it. And you only put 1% into the deal, which you're going to be doing that anyway, more than likely. So your money that you've already put into the deal makes up the 1% needed for the 3%, and you never have to pay the grant money back. Yes, Tamika, DC Open Doors, that is another program that is available. I personally have not worked with DC Open Doors in a long time, so I have to get refresher. And here's I'm just going to be honest with everybody in this call. I am not the loan officer that likes to make my client the guinea pig on me learning how to do a program. Like I said, I want this to be a dream scenario. So if you need the DC Open Door program or something that I just don't know how to do, I'm okay with saying I don't know how to do it. And maybe I can go back to Michelle or find a lender that I know, that I trust, that's doing it on a regular basis and say, hey, I need you to holler at Miss Tamika. Or Tamika. Which one was it? Tamika? Tamika. Holler at her because she needs this DC Open Doors. You're the man. I trust you. Take good care of her. And I'll pass it on because I'm just not going to mess you up. But this VHDA program, man, it's my favorite. I love this thing. And see, here's the other thing about this one. Each county has some sort of first-time buyer benefit. This program here will already give you its own benefit, but then you can layer it. So if the county that you're in has an additional benefit, then they'll add that on to it. So they might be able to drop your rate from 3% to 2% just because you are buying in Arlington. This program is amazing. Nobody can touch it.
And do not be scared of Virginia, y'all.
Yeah, man, come on out here. It's for lovers, man.
It's so my Maryland people.
It's too high, Michelle. It's high in DC.
It is high. It is high.
That's why I'm trying to move to Baltimore.
Baltimore. I'll be there tomorrow. Baltimore. But it's all about the houses. So you guys know when I send these, most of the hot homes lists aren't inexpensive houses, but it's DC, it's the whole entire DMV, right? Because once we start looking at houses, you never know where that house is going to be. So that's why I always want us to be educated on everything that's out there.
Mm-hmm. Let me give you this. Go ahead. No, keep going.
Yeah, so we do have and the thing I love about Marcus, so when they first introduced me to Marcus over a year ago, maybe even 2 at this point, they were like, he is the VHDA guy. So I put him in a box. I was like, Marcus, anytime I have someone, he was like, don't put me in a box, Michelle. He said, don't put me in a box, And so, but what I love about him is he's willing to learn, but not necessarily put us in jeopardy, right? So if it comes to another partner, we have them. We have squad.
For sure. Let me tell you this. There's a program. It's called Chenoa. Okay. You heard of it, Michelle?
Yes. Very familiar with Chenoa.
So Chenoa can work with conventional loans. It works with FHA loans. And what the essence of what Chenoa is, down payment assistance is always going to come with a requirement of they're going to look at how much money you make and how many people are in the household, what area you're going to be in. Sometimes they come with additional fees. There's always a little bit of a nuance to it. Chenoa says, we'll give you FHA loan, and then we'll let you put your down payment in a second loan right behind it. And depending on how much money you make, you might have to pay that loan off in 30 years. You might have to pay it off in 10 years. But if you make low enough income, you don't have to pay it off at all. You just make your mortgage payment on that first loan for 3 years, and then that down payment assistance goes away completely. Conventional offers the same thing, but it's a 3% down payment. So first mortgage, and then the Chenoa loan behind it. And then they'll also say, we'll give you the 3% to cover your down payment and some additional money to roll in some of those closing costs. And then the same rules apply. There's some wonderful options, and that's not limited to Maryland, DC, or Virginia. That's throughout the entire United States.
Marcus, do you guys do FHLB as well?
Yes, we do. I didn't mention it because FHLB runs out of money every time it comes out. They come out quarterly, and everybody is diving into the same pot trying to get that money. So it goes just like that.
Mm-hmm. It does. So that's another grant program, guys, especially if we're looking now at the beginning of the year. They replenish it around January, February. Well, to his point, like by May, it's gone. Yeah. Right? By the middle of the year, the money's gone. Mm-hmm. But so a couple of things I want to say. A lot of you guys will call and say, hey, Michelle, which down payment assistant program should I look at? Should I start? Where do I need to apply? And usually what I say is our lender's going to take care of that. Because when we submit the application, Marcus, team, they're going to then see which programs make the most sense for us, get us the most money, and put us in those programs.
Money.
Yeah. Am I accurate, Marcus?
Absolutely. I'm the money guy.
Awesome. And so the other thing too is usually when I talk to you guys, I always say a couple of things. 580, he talked about the FHA the first time. 580, 3.5% down, right? And that 580 has to be a clean 580, right? Which is hard to do sometimes.
Very difficult. Yes.
Very difficult. So, but that can get us 3.5% down. At a 620, that starts getting us qualified for some shmoney, right? At a 640, we get more money. So that's why we're always aiming for the higher score, the better. Cool?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. Let's see what's next. My turn. So Marcus, you're going to stay up here with me though, because we're just going to talk really quickly, guys. We're not going to keep you here all night. We're going to go over the home buying process. Again, it is you guys have heard me say it before for the most part, right? And it's a lot. Usually the process is about 90 days from start to finish, right? Sometimes it's in chunks. So this first piece right here, preparation, where we prepare, right? That is usually the longest piece, right? Preparation can be anywhere from usually 3 months, 6 months, a year, sometimes 2 years, right? That's where we focus on the things that Marcus talked about. We focus on our credit, our income, our assets. And this is whether you're buying a first house or a second house or an investment property. These are all the three things that matter, right? And we just talked about those a little bit. The credit will get us pre-approved for a mortgage. The credit will also determine down payment. The credit will also determine how much money we can get from these programs. Assets. We want assets in the bank because one, the bank just likes to see them and they don't want to see cash, and they want to make sure that we can pay any costs that come up, right? They want to make sure that we can pay for the down payment and that we can pay for closing costs. There are two sets of costs with purchasing the house. There's the down payment, which is a portion of the purchase price. And then there are closing costs, which are title insurance, taxes, all that stuff that we have to pay in order to buy the house, right? Awesome. So that's the first phase, preparation, right? I see you're looking at all that stuff. So in a good market, we're able to negotiate with the seller to help us out on that closing cost. Right now, we're in a highly competitive market, so it just takes a little bit more muscle, which I have, to get some of that closing help. Cool? Awesome. Okay, pre-approval. So once we're prepared and we feel that we're ready, that's when we submit our application to Marcus and team. They're going to come back and say, hey guys, we are ready to go. Here's what we're approved for. Or they're going to say, you know what, we're almost there. Let's do a couple more things to make sure we can maximize our opportunity. Right, Marcus?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Check. So now we have our pre-approval letter. The reason we do not shop for houses, I know you guys are like, Michelle, can we just go see some houses? Usually, most times, yeah, but we don't go looking at houses without pre-approval because we're out shopping, you fall in love with the house, you want to make an offer. We can't make an offer without a pre-approval letter. When we submit the paperwork, the pre-approval letter has to be attached.
Yep.
Cool. So I'm not just being stingy with the houses. Really, it's just, I would hate for, like, window shopping sucks when we don't have any money, right? So, or when our credit card's maxed out. That's what going out shopping for a house without a pre-approval is like. Cool?
Say it again.
Awesome. Okay, then now we're pre-approved. It's time to go looking for a house. We go and look for a house. Usually I say that if we are serious about buying a house and not just window shopping, it's going to take us about 2 weeks to find a house. Right now, we're in a super competitive market, right? What does that mean? That means that I have listings and I have buyers that are going to buy a house where we are up against 17 offers. We're up against 20 offers. So every time the requirement is to make our best and final. Sometimes we don't win the first one. So instead of taking 2 weeks to find a house, now it's taking us anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks to find a house. Cool? We find the house, we win the offer. Now we're under contract. Number 4. Yay! Once we're under contract, generally, so all that could have taken a year, could have taken 2, right? Under contract from here to here. So from 4 to 8, 30 days. 30 days. So once we're under contract, there's a home inspection where basically we hire a home inspector, make sure there aren't any material defects, right? Foundation issues, HVAC issues, moisture issues. Moisture is the worst one. Roof, right? An old roof. Ooh, tell us a little bit, Marcus, about the VA and old roofs. We run into that.
Yeah, it was a moss and something else on that roof. Front footer stuff. An old roof, because what they'll do is they'll do the entire inspection at the appraisal time, and they'll look at it and see how much life that's left with that roof. Because ultimately, if you have limited life left here, then the elements tend to go, well, gravity wins, right? Mm-hmm. And water causes mold and damage and foundational issues, and it just becomes a property that nobody can live in. So they make sure that there's at least I think it's like 5 years or more left on a roof. I can't remember the exact number, but they just have to have a little bit longer life. It can't be, hey, it only has a year left. You got to replace that roof.
Yeah. And because the bank also wants to make sure that they make a good investment, right? That we're making a good investment and they are. So a lot of the times, right, especially in our area, it's super expensive. So we'll find foreclosures or we'll find short sales and we'll say, oh my gosh, Michelle, well, I can buy this big old house in my budget. And I'm always like, it makes more sense for us to buy something a little bit more move-in ready that has lower maintenance. And this is why, one, the bank probably won't finance it. And two, the last thing I want you to do is for us to buy a house that's going to be a problem, right? We're buying a house for good days, for better days, and not to buy a money pit. So once we really start shopping for a house, if we're not out there already, now you kind of know where my mindset is when it comes to that.
Michelle, have you seen the home inspection process ever slow down your contract timelines?
Yes. And so when a home inspector goes out, he's going to give us a report, right? The smaller the report, the better, because that means that the house doesn't have a lot of issues, right? Every report will find issues. Why? Because there isn't a perfect house. If it's new construction, there will be issues, but we're looking for material defects, things that we cannot see. Good idea, decks, right? So it was a VA loan. The deck had peeling paint. The VA is not going to approve peeling paint anywhere in the house. So then what happens is the appraiser or the inspector, well, this is more of the appraiser finds that, and then you have to now pause your contract. Someone has to fix it, and then they have to go back out and inspect that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Home inspection, and it's kind of like, so let's say we have the home inspected, home inspector comes back, gives us the report, and they find a couple of things that are wrong. And we don't care about the little things, but they find that the HVAC is busted, right? Not that it's old, but that it's busted and it's not working. So now what happens is we go back to Mr. Seller and we say, hey, Mr. Seller, the HVAC is busted. Will you please fix it? Will you please repair it, replace it, or provide a credit for it? And it's up to Mr. Seller on which way that he wants to go. So that's where a lot of times people get extra credits once we're under contract.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Appraisal is when Marcus and crew, right? When the bank sends out an appraiser to make sure the home is worth what we're paying for. So if we're paying $300 for a house and the appraisal comes back at $280, bank's not paying $280. Hey, we're not paying $280, right? Because it's not worth that. So at that point, we will renegotiate with the seller. Either they will lower the price or we can walk away from the contract.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. There have been times where people wanted a house so bad, especially in this market where they paid above the appraised value. I usually don't recommend it. In our market, depending on how much you're willing to pay above, it's not detrimental because our homes do appreciate in this area, but it's still something that we would have to look at really, really carefully. And then the third thing is underwriting. Marcus and crew again. This is when they come back and ask for your firstborn, everything else, your bank statements, blood type, firstborn, all that good stuff. But no, bank statements, pay stubs, any type of rental verification, anything, letters of explanation, gift letters, all of that good stuff. Just to then fund the loan. So then we go from pre-approval and pre-approved to approved, and then they give us that money so that we can buy the house.
Well, let me jump in, because at number one and number two, I've already, in order to get to number two, I'm collecting everything at number one. So your last two pay stubs, last 2 months bank statements, last 2 years of W-2s, maybe tax returns. I'm going to know where you've worked for the last 2 years, and I'm going to know where you've lived for the last 2 years, and I will have a copy of your driver's license. But I'll already know how you manage your debt. So when we get down to that's why I release a pre-approval, because if you're a good candidate or not, I give a pre-approval. She shops for a house. But by the time you get down to number 7, we've already collected 90% of the documents that we need. Number 7 is really just the moment that we update a bank statement if we need to, or pay stub. We get an updated pay stub if we need to, or the underwriter asks for an explanation about a large deposit or overdraft that happened on one of those bank statements that I got. Stuff that doesn't kill your loan. I mean, and a lot of times we ask up front, like, okay, I noticed that you have this or that, or you might have child support coming out of your paycheck. Well, certain loans have to, you got to factor that child support into your overall qualifying, but I will know that up front. So when you get down to underwriting, again, I'm trying to win. I'm not trying to get in the game and screw up and then we lose. No. We set it up front so that at the end we're holding the trophy, holding the keys.
Absolutely. The keys. And to that point, if you receive a pre-approval from a bank, from a lender, and they do not collect your documents, right? If they just say, oh, fill in the blank for how much income you make, and they don't verify, that is not a pre-approval. That is going to get us in trouble at the end. So I know some of us are like, Michelle, why is it taking so long to get my pre-approval letter? Because we want to make sure that once we are pre-approved and go under contract, that we're not coming out of contract. Cool?
Yeah.
Awesome. And number 8, that is the closing day. We have signed everything. We have clear to close. That's what we're always waiting for from Marcus and team. Clear to close. So the bank says we're cleared to close. The title company, who I don't have on here, but they're like the lawyers that protect both sides, right? They make sure that the house that, someone, Mr. No Name, can't come in and say, hey, my great grandma willed me that house. How are you going to buy it? They make sure that the title is clean. We get insurance against someone coming in and staking claim to our house. And then we sign a bunch of documents about this thick. And then we get the keys to our house. And that's closing day.
Yep.
And then we move on.
30 days.
That's it.
Michelle, you have a few questions in the chat.
Awesome. Okay, let's go ahead and pull up questions. This is a quick local business, support local. Thank you, Jamila. Jamila, do you want to go ahead and read off the questions for us?
Okay, put me on the spot. Okay. So we have a question from, I hope I'm saying this right, Felice. She says, hi, Michelle. Is there any programs out there for me with my debt to credit due to student loans? Not quite sure.
It's okay. We got it. Debt to income and student loans are high for her. Would you want to take that one, Marcus?
Yeah. So with depending on where your credit is sitting and depending on the loan program that you end up with, your student loans may be factored in its entirety or just a small portion. So some people have income-based plans set up because they submitted their paperwork for pay stubs and all of that. So although you may have $100,000 in student loans, because of the income that you make, you may only pay $100 a month or $200 a month. If you end up with a conventional loan, which is backed by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, then as long as we have the paperwork showing that you only pay $100 a month, then that's the number that we use to help establish a real debt ratio. And then that feeds into the actual sales price that you qualify for, the $200,000 or $250,000, $300,000 property that you like. But if you end up, you can still have that payment plan set up. But if your credit only gets you an FHA loan doesn't care. They don't honor the income-based number. They don't honor the minimum minimum payment that you pay on your student loans. FHA says if you have $100,000 in student loans, we use 1% of that balance, which is $1,000, and feed that into your overall qualifying. And that's the number that we as lenders have to use to help you buy a home. So that means that you're not buying a $250,000 or $350,000, whatever. You're coming down in that number because, like Michelle said, that high car payment feeds into what we ultimately can help you purchase. Now, there's a CARES Act because of COVID that's been in place for almost a year, where nobody has to pay their student loans. Lending guidelines still say, yeah, we know that you're not paying the student loans right now, but they will kick in at some point, and you still have to defer back to the calculations I just mentioned.
Awesome. And so, the realtor answer would be student loans are not going to keep us from buying. No, agree, like 100%, right? Yeah,
You're
student
right.
loans will not keep you from buying a house, right? That we may have to work some things out. It may take us a little time to get prepared, but it will not keep us from buying a house.
That's good. That's right.
Awesome. Really quickly, and then we're going to go back to Jamila. Christy Evans says, what about for teachers? What do you have for us? How are we supporting our teachers?
You a teacher?
No, not me. Someone. How are we supporting our teachers?
Yeah. So with teachers, there are some programs like that. Christy, you're a teacher. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Y'all do a job that I'm not built for. So thank you so much for that. There are teachers programs. I would look first of all in the county that you're most interested in purchasing in. Secondly, if it is like Prince George's County, that PG-PAP program, it has a little bit of an advantage. They sweeten the deal for teachers a little bit there, and I can't recall the exact numbers right now, but they do sweeten the deal for if you're a public servant, and like teachers are one of them. You start with the county. And then, of course, when like I talked about, like with VHDA or something like that, those tend to be more favorable for teachers and public service, police officers, and things like that. There's a little bit more flexibility that's there. I've heard rumblings of this program called the Teachers Program, the Teachers Financing Program, and I haven't been able to look deep into that, to be honest with you, but I have heard of some things because I get that question every now and then about special programs for teachers. I hope that answered your question.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'll contact Michelle.
Absolutely. And we also have some questions about nurses. So FHLB, that one that we says runs out of money really fast for teachers, for nurses. I think that like the standard is $5,000, and then for like some of these service members, it's an additional $2,500. So that's $7,500 towards a down payment. But again, it's like the money runs out really, really fast. So awesome. And I'm reading some, because some of these are in my private messages. So we have one that says, what determines your mortgage? So they're asking, what determines your mortgage? So I guess like how much house we can buy and what that monthly payment looks like.
Mm-hmm. Your existing debt load, so the monthly payments, and we don't care about car insurance or cell phone payments and things like that. It's the monthly payments that are already on your mortgage your credit report. So those things that are there compared to your gross monthly income, and then we only can use, let's say, 45 to maybe 50% of your gross monthly income. So then that difference, so it might be $1,500 added to what you are already paying with the car payment and student loans. That total number manifests into the $300,000. Okay, so we look at what you're already paying and see how much there's there that we can squeeze a mortgage payment into, and then that establishes a sales price. And
what I say to back that up is, we talk to the banks. I do this every day, and I cannot I can't even look at my own income and my own debt and figure out how much house I can buy until I submit that application. Is that accurate, Marcus?
You talk to the bank, yeah.
I can't figure it out, right?
That's real, yeah.
Because we can always guesstimate. Like before, when I first started in the business, they say, well, Michelle, usually it's 3 to 4 times an income. I've seen it higher. I've seen it lower. I think that the best thing to do is just submit that application when we're ready to submit that application. Yeah.
You're right.
Awesome. Okay, here we go. I love this one. Full-time realtor trying to purchase a home. I was informed that I need to wait 2 years to purchase because I'm 1099. I only have 1 year under my belt. What are my options for purchasing, if any?
You do need to wait those 2 years because you want to file your tax returns for those 2 years. And as a small business owner is more likely to write off a number of things. So you reduce your net income. And when I'm looking at the net income, I'm only able to qualify you off of that 2-year average. So my advice would be to, yes, have the 2 years. Don't write off a ton of things. And then that will help you increase your buying power. And then after you obtain the home, then you switch over to, your write-offs and things of that nature. But you do need the 2 years. If you are really trying to get a home, some programs will allow 1 year, but they will be super aggressive. It's a little bit more, there's more risk involved. So you get a higher interest rate. You've got to pay more fees. The underwriting process is scrutinized. It's a tougher process. And then all the way in the back of the whole thing, you can qualify if you wrote off a ton, but you make the money. Then we can use your bank statements to use the deposits and average those over 12 to 24 months. But again, it's a higher risk, so it's a higher rate, higher down payment, and that's not the right loan for everybody. So I would really just wait the 2 years and because you want it to be easy. You want it to be a dream come true for you.
I love that. I had a client, and this client makes almost $1 million a year in their business, and it's time to buy a home, and he's written off most of it. Mm-hmm. And so when it came time to purchase the house, he could either purchase a really low amount or put like 20-30% down to get the house that he really wanted. Mm-hmm. So, and I think that's where what we have to be careful about. It's when we write, just get with the CPA, this is what I've been told. Get with your CPA, tell CPA, hey, I want to buy a house. Where's my threshold for what I write off, right? We just can't write off everything, which sucks because in real estate, we spend a lot of money. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Awesome. I hope that helped. Let's see. Jamila, did I miss anything? Is there any programs out there for me with my debt to credit due to student loans? Oh, that's a student loan question.
We had a follow-up from Felice. She asked, is a co-borrower her only option?
Because of that student loan, if her student loans are high.
Yeah, it's not the only option. It could be an option, but it's definitely not the only one. Like I said, there's different products. You go FHA, they use 1% of your student loans. But if your credit's good enough, then you go conventional, they'll use the income plan, the income-based payment that you're making, and then you don't need a cosigner because that payment's so super low. Because some people's income-based plan payment is $0 based upon the amount that they make. And if it's zero, then that's what we use.
Mm-hmm. And so I think, of course, your situation is really, really specific. So I don't think the only option is the cosigner. But let's hop on the phone and then we can talk about what some potential other options are, Ms. Felice. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay, just got a question. What if you want to buy out of your pocket, like if you buy a home for $25,000 and talk about the dollar program, if that's okay? Does that ring a bell to you?
I don't understand the question. Can you answer it again?
Yeah. So, did you want to ask? Yeah,
I was going to ask. So basically what I wanted to know, I know they have the dollar program in some cities and some states. And also what if you had money saved up and you wanted to buy a home, out of your pocket? How would that work?
To be honest, I have not heard of the dollar program. I would have to my pen. The dollar program.
The dollar program I'm talking about, the one is in Baltimore.
Michelle, you work Baltimore pretty good. Have you heard of it? I haven't heard of it.
I haven't, Miss Tamika, but I will find out. I do have someone that's in a lender that's in Baltimore. We can find out. Mm-hmm. Awesome. So I'll call you either tomorrow or Saturday, Miss Tamika. Awesome. Okay, we have a question from Anya. Oops, I'm sorry. We have a question from someone else. So it says, I have a bankruptcy that's less than 4 years. I really desire to become a homeowner. I need it, but that's hindering me. So 4-year bankruptcy. My poor credit choices hindering me. My score is now 675. Whoop, whoop. All I have is student loans left and 2 store cards. I did money management class, all HCAP, full. She wants to buy a house in August. Realistically, can that happen?
Yep.
Yeah, girl, you did all the work.
Yeah. Yeah. You fully, I would say that upon review of that credit bureau, you fully recovered. And especially if you've reestablished credit and, and that 675 shows that you have reestablished something. Good job. Real good job.
Yeah.
I think you'll be ready by August. So that would mean that you probably want to start the process
now.
Yeah. I was going to say April, May at the latest, but yeah, now.
Yeah. Start now, at least so that way, once we talk to the lender, if lender says, well, let's do A, B, and C, we have time to do any little things that need to be done. But bankruptcy is usually what, 2 to 3 years after discharge?
Yeah. And for FHA, it's 2 years.
Boom. 675, you're already crushing the credit requirements.
Yeah.
All you have left, student loans and 2 store cards. So your DTI should not be killing you. Let's get you that house, girl.
Yeah, that's a good opportunity.
Awesome. I think we have everyone. Yes.
Let me say this. So you're at a 675 and the threshold to like even better rates is a 680. So you're right there. So if we look at your credit right now, I can tell you what you need to do to bump it. If the credit report says that she has the potential to get another 10 points across the board, then pay this credit card down, pay that credit card down. You do it. We wait. It bumps over, and now your interest rate could go from 2.75 down to 2.3, and that's a cheaper payment each month. Yep. And let me just say this while I'm talking about credit. 99% of people are using credit monitoring systems, Credit Karma, Credit Wise, Credit Sesame, annual credit, whatever. These credit monitoring systems, their scores are always wrong. The history, what's being added to the bureau and what's being taken off, that's accurate. But the scores are always wrong because they don't have access to what the bureaus are reporting exactly. So they make up their own. Scoring system, and it's always off by about 50 points. So it's always 50 points higher than where your real scores are. So don't use those scores to run your life, if you will. But if you are looking for details on your end game is to buy a house, then you need to talk to the person, a lender, and make sure that they can give you the details of where your score really is and then how to get your score to be better if it needs to improve.
Absolutely. And here's another question. I think this is our last one, guys, so that way we can respect everyone's time. I could stay here all night, but I know all of you can't. And I appreciate you for being here this long. Thank you, Marcus, as well. If you had, and I'm going to come back and ask this, if you had housing, does that come up when considering for a loan? Did you want to open your mic and ask us that question? Let's see if she's still in the room. She may have left.
No, I'm here. Hi. So I was just asking, does that come up when considering a loan? If you had issue with houses before, like maybe having issues with not.
Uh-oh, your mic went out on us.
Oh, hello.
You're back.
Oh, so if you had like old housing at a point in time, because you wasn't making, yeah. Well, does that come up like when considering for a loan?
Like rental history, Marcus?
Yes.
So if you never had any rental history or you had issues where you were previously living?
Yes, where I was
issues where we're.
So yes, we do go back. I mean, it depends on how long ago it was, but because we look at like a 2-year window. So if you've been at your current place for a year, but then the previous year, we also have to look at that. And if that previous place that you were living, there were some issues there with the rent or whatever, that can impact whether or not you get a loan.
How far back do you look, Marcus?
How far back as well?
How far back? And I've seen us use letters of explanation, right? So if there's like a
there's a really legitimate. Yeah. I mean, like I said, we're trying to put this puzzle together, trying to give you a loan. We're not trying to find ways to actually deny you. So when there's a hurdle, we try to find a way to get you over the hurdle. So if it's a matter of a letter of explanation or maybe a paperwork that can be proven to show that the issue wasn't yours, or if You may have had it because you had some health challenges, but you no longer have those challenges. That might be enough to get you over the hump. But I'll know that we'll have a good detailed conversation up front, and then I will know, hey, I think this is a challenge. Let's not really push for it too hard with the whole pre-approval. Let's just sit here and try to figure this thing out and work with underwriters on my end. And if we can get over that, then we just move forward with the rest of it.
Perfect. And does that help? Kind of. Yes. Awesome. And so really, I know like some of the answers we give today are not like either cut and dry, right? It's not like a yes or no, or sometimes they may feel a little discouraging. But like I tell you guys all the time, stay encouraged, right? One, we're going to find money. Two, we're going to get you into a house. Now that process may take us 3 months, 6 months, a year. I've seen it take 2 years, but the key is we have to start now. Right? If we don't start now, if we don't start figuring out what it is that we need to do, we just had someone tell us she went through bankruptcy, she's cleaned up her credit, she has student loans. The bankruptcy was 4 years ago, and now she's ready to buy a house. But if she never started, then she wouldn't be where she is today. Yep. Cool?
Yes.
Awesome, guys. Jamila, do we have any other questions? I don't see any of my DMs.
Nope, that was it.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. This was awesome. We will get together again next month. We'll talk estate planning. We'll talk more financing. So we're going to do this every month. I promised you guys that I would, keep in touch with you and keep dropping nuggets. And I'm sticking to my word, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marcus.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.